Okay, let's get started on section 5.1, exploring data. So you worked your way through the getting started, and hopefully you remembered some things that you did in the past and maybe picked up a few things. I'm going to try to cover all the points of this lesson. It might be a bit of a long one, but this is a lot of new stuff for you. So first of all, the things that they've asked you to keep in mind is that the mean, the median, and the mode may not be enough to represent or compare two or more sets of data. And looking at how the data is spread around the mean or median of a set of data can help you draw inferences. That means numbers might not help you as much as looking at what does the data look like? What does a graph of it look like? Okay, and drawing inferences is just, it's almost like a conjecture, like you're deciding what's going on. And then it says when comparing two or more sets of data, organize the data and then look at similarities and differences. Okay, so I thought it would be a good idea just one more time to go through the definitions of these four words. You had to calculate these in your getting started, but I thought it was worth going over again. Remember, you can always pause the video if you want to take notes and get all of this information down. So remember, the mean is just another word for average, okay? Oh, my little divided sign didn't come. There it is, okay? So the mean is just another word for average. And the way that you calculate that is you add up all the numbers and you divide by how many there are, okay? Median, that is the middle. So what you need to do is list all the numbers chronologically, which means lowest to highest, and pick the middle. Okay, so this is like middle. So if you have, let's say, 7 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the middle is 4. Okay, there's 3 numbers before it and there's 3 numbers after it. So the median would be 4. But if your list was 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, and it was an even amount of numbers, then your middle is between the 2 middle numbers. So your median would be 2.5 because that's the middle of those middle numbers. Okay, median means middle. Okay, mode. It's the number or numbers that appear most. So the way that I remember mode is most. So if you have a list 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, the mode is 3 because it occurs twice versus just once for the other numbers. And range is the highest number minus the lowest number, and it's literally the difference of the two numbers. So if your list is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your range will be 5 minus 1, highest minus lowest, or 4. Okay. All right, so then the first example in your notes here says that greenhouse gas emissions per person were recorded from 1990 to 2005 for Canada and the US. And A asks you to construct a graph to illustrate the greenhouse gas emissions for both countries. So this table is showing you here that in 1990, Canada had 18 tons per person and the US had 22. In 1991, Canada still had 18, the US dropped to 21, etc. Okay? So in your notes is a blank graph here, but I thought it would be fun to actually make a graph online, and I put this link in on the web page where it says online graph generator. Okay, so if you want to pause the video and go there and catch up, and if you want to make this graph, I'll show you how. So first of all, I chose the line graph because I'm making, hold on, I'm lost now. I'm making a line graph, okay? And we are going to compare two sets of data. So we're going to make a line graph, choose line, and then go into data. And the graph title I chose was greenhouse gas emissions. I know it says per person for Canada and the US, but the x-axis is going to be the year, the y is going to be CO2 emissions. And then we have, if you count, we go from 1990 down to 2005. So we have 16 pieces of data, we have 16 items, and we have two groups, one for the US and one for Canada. Okay? And if you want, you can play with the color. I don't really care, but you can play with the line width. I didn't bother with any of that. So you can type in all the data for 1990. Canada was 18, the US was 22. Oops, 22. For 1991, it was 18 and 21. Okay, I'm going to pause the video here because as exciting as it is to watch me type stuff in, I'm going to pause, type in all the data, and then I'll come back. Okay, I'm back. So I've typed in all of the data from the table about greenhouse gas emissions. And that's the data. So I can click on labels. You can play with the font. It doesn't really matter. I left that for now. And then you can go to a preview and you can see what your graph looks like. So kind of squishy, kind of hard to read. Notice that it doesn't even tell you what the green and the purple stand for. Oh yeah, I guess I should go in and maybe say what the labels are. So remember the first one was Canada, the second one was the US. And so if you go to preview, now at least I've got a nice little legend on the side. Oh, the green is Canada and the purple is the US. I've got a lot of wasted space on my graph that I don't really need. And actually we can deal with that on this page, on the data page, because the graph really only is between 15 and 30. So I can say that. And I can move the graph so that it covers more space. Okay? And so it kind of shows you what happens. The purple is the US, and look at how consistent it is. The green is Canada, and it's really all over the place. On a normal graph, we wouldn't have the numbers sitting on top of the value. So right here where it says data labels, we are going to have none. And that's way better. There we go. Okay, so that's what the graph looks like. Now, if you want, you can print it, you can save it, you can download it, anything you want to do. But I just wanted to show you an example of how you could create a graph instead of just graphing it on paper. Since we have this technology at our fingertips, why not use it? Okay. So back though to the lesson here. Here's all the data. You go away. And this is the outline in your book. So if you want, you can put dots everywhere. Remember that Canada, which I have in red, Canada in 1990 was 18. 18 would be about here. In 1991, it was 18 again. In 1992, we went down to 16. So you could kind of go along and do your dots like that. I already went ahead and did it. And so Canada, I've graphed. I missed there, didn't I? I graphed to look something like that, which looks kind of similar. This is the graph that I cut and pasted from that website. So look at how Canada goes up and down, up and down. And the US, a lot more consistent, okay? So when you graph the data, that's the nice thing about graphs, is it's an instantaneous snapshot of what's going on. So instead of looking at a really long list of information and trying to keep track of what's going on, you can tell instantaneously what happened. Canada, inconsistent. The US, very consistent. Okay? And then it asked us to, first of all, construct the graph, but secondly, it asked us to determine the range, the mean, the median, and the mode for the average greenhouse gas emissions. All right, so range is easy. Remember with range, we just subtract the highest from the lowest. So in Canada, it looks like we would do 27 minus 16. Mean, I would add them up and divide by 16 because remember there were 16 of them. Median takes a while because you have to list the numbers from lowest to highest and pick the middle. And mode, which number occurs the most. Okay, so it's important that you know how to calculate it, but once you really do know how to calculate it, we've got some really nice online statistics calculators that can help us. And this is one that I found online that I found was quite helpful. So remember, pause if you got to catch up. I know I'm clicking quite quickly, but you can always pause or replay the video. Okay, so this is a really easy basic statistics calculator that I found online. And instead of like punching in all the numbers on the calculator and trying to remember how many we had, etc., we can just type in the numbers. Okay, so it says enter the numbers separated by a comma. So I'm going to do Canada. You have to do them separately, but I'll do Canada first. Okay, so remember Canada started with 18, then there was an 18, etc. I'm going to pause and then come back. Alrighty, I'm back. So I typed in all the numbers for Canada, just separated by a comma, and then just easily click on Submit Data, and it tells you the mean, the median. Ooh, there's two modes, exciting, and the range is 11. Okay, so we can go back. Mean was 21.25. Mean 21.25. Oh, I don't know why my pen's not working. Now it's all over the place. 21.25. The median was 20. The mode, we had two of them. I remember the range was 11. And the mode, we have two of them. The modes were 19 and 20, meaning 19 and 20 occurred the same number of times. All right, so we're going to go back and we're going to retype in all the US, although it's fairly easy. Look, I have all 21s except two 22s. So when I go back, I'm going to type in two 22s, and then the rest are 21s. Okay, I'll pause and I'll be right back. I'm going to type all those in. Alrighty, I'm back. So I had my two 22s, I had my 14 21s that I typed in. Click on Submit Data. So my mean, 21.125. Those two 22s pulled it up slightly. So my mean is 21.125. Ooh, it's exactly the same as Canada. Huh. Let's see. Median 21, mode 21. Median in the middle, that's not a surprise because I had so many 21s. Mode, of course, 21. And my range was only 1. Okay? So remember my graphs. My graph showed me that the US was quite consistent. The Canada was all over the place, up, down, up, down. Now I know they look really up and down. Remember, the lowest was what, 16, and the highest was what, 27. Remember, the range was 11. So it's not like they're crazy different, but look at the US, so consistent. So when we look at this data, the US was very consistent. The range is only 1, meaning the difference between the highest and the lowest was practically nothing, whereas Canada, it was a lot higher, which is significant. The mean, exactly the same. So you could say, on average, Canada and US had exactly the same average of greenhouse gas emissions. Median, the middle number was very similar, and the mode, look at how many times that the US had 21, almost all of them. Canada had 2, 19 and 20. So similar, but the real big difference is this. The US, very consistent, Canada all over the place. So we actually can tell quite a bit from finding some of these different calculations other than the graph. Okay, so that's done. And then C says, how do the two countries compare in the amount of greenhouse gas emissions? Okay, so the first thing I said is the US was way more consistent, like considerably more consistent in their emissions than Canada was. Canada started with lower, which is a good thing, right? We do want to have lower greenhouse emissions, but we kept increasing, and then we ended up with higher emissions by 2005. So even though Canada started off lower, which is really good, we don't want greenhouse emissions, we ended up higher than the US, which is not good. So there's that to keep in mind. It said both countries had approximately the same mean. In fact, we had exactly the same mean. Canada had a lower median, but a greater range. So, I don't know, what could you say about who is doing better in terms of controlling their greenhouse gas emissions? But the data can at least help you form an opinion. All right, so good luck on your 5.1 practice. please come and get help as you need. Use those online graphing tools. They are very helpful.